say that man was made in the image of God. But I've seen the images man makes for himself. We have a talent for turning iron into agony. In the Black Forest, there was a tower that didn't scream with voices, but with the screech of rusted hinges. They called it the Widow's Peak. Inside, there was a machine. A maiden of iron that had tasted so much blood, she started to develop a thirst of her own. I didn't go there to save a soul. I went there to break a monster made of cogs and cruelty. I walk the road where the crows don't fly. Under a bruise in a bleeding sky, got a cross in my hand and a ghost on my back, and a heart that's faded into black.
The tower was an architectural nightmare. A jagged speck of granite piercing the mist, heavy canopy of the forest. Samuel's logs from this period are difficult to read. The ink is smudged with oil and black soot. He described the approach as a journey through a graveyard of machinery. Broken gears, snapped chains, and rusted blades were scattered among the roots of the pines like the bones of a forgotten civilization. As Samuel reached the base of the tower, the air grew thick with the smell of old grease and oxidized copper. It was a sterile, metallic scent that even the forest's damp earth couldn't mask. He told me that Eamon was unusually still that day. The demon didn't pace. It crouched within Samuel's shadow, its bird skull head tilted toward the tower's summit. Even a spirit of wrath respects a machine designed for nothing but pain. Samuel ignited a cigar, the flint spark echoing against the stone walls. The blue smoke rose vertically, refusing to dissipate in the stagnant air. He pushed open the heavy iron-reinforced door. There was no guard, no porter, only the rhythmic, heavy clunk hiss of a massive clockwork mechanism somewhere deep within the foundations. He climbed the stairs, each step heavy with the realization that the walls were lined with mirrors. But they weren't glass. They were polished steel plates reflecting his tired face in the glowing ember of the cigar 1,000 times over. At the top of the tower, in a room bathed in the sickly green light of a moss-covered skylight, stood the maiden. She was 7 feet of blackened iron, her surface etched with the faces of weeping saints. She wasn't just a box. She was a presence. And as Samuel stepped into the room, the maiden's chest plates began to pulse, like a metal lung drawing its first breath in a century. The Iron Maiden was not possessed by a demon in the traditional sense. It was something far more clinical. The years of systematic torture within those walls had left a psychic residue. The ghost in the machine fed by the collective agony of 1,000 victims. The governor of the region, a man who had lost his mind to his study of pain, had linked the maiden to a massive water wheel in the basement, turning the device into an autonomous executioner. Samuel moved closer, his silver cross held low. The room began to hum. The steel plates on the walls started to vibrate, creating a low-frequency sound that made Samuel's teeth ache and his vision blur. The maiden's doors creaked open, revealing an interior lined with hundreds of long, serrated needles. But they weren't stationary. They were moving, twitching like the legs of an insect, seeking the warmth of living flesh. Suddenly, the floor beneath Samuel shifted, hidden gears rotated, and the iron shackles shot out from the stone, snapping around his ankles. He was pulled toward the open maw of the machine. He struck out with his cross, but the metal was cold and indifferent to holy symbols. The maiden didn't have a soul to exercise. It had a function to perform. Samuel took a desperate drag of his cigar, blowing a thick cloud of blue smoke into the maiden's interior. For a second, the gears jammed. The smoke, heavy with spiritual weight, acted like grit in the clockwork. But the machine was powerful. The water wheel below groaned, forcing the gears to turn. The maiden let out a sound like a woman's scream, but it was the scream of metal being torn. Samuel could feel the first needle piercing his leather cloak, seeking his heart with a cold, mechanical precision. Samuel realized that to stop the maiden, he had to stop the heart of the tower. He didn't try to pull away. Instead, he leaned into the machine's embrace. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a heavy iron spike he had taken from the city gates of Vallo, a piece of metal soaked in the blood of the plague. As the maiden's doors began to close around him, Samuel jammed the spike directly into the main drive gear located behind the maiden's head. The sound was catastrophic. The iron spike, blessed with a roar of penance, acted as a lightning rod for the machine's own malevolence. The gears buckled. The water wheel below shattered under the sudden resistance, the tower shaken to its very foundations. The maiden groaned one last time, a long, dying hiss of steam and oil. But needles retracted. Frozen in mid-strike, Samuel slumped to the floor, his cloak shredded, his blood mixing with the black oil of the machine. He looked up and saw the faces of the weeping saints on the maiden's surface for a brief moment. They didn't look like they were crying for themselves. They looked like they were crying for him. He crawled out of the tower as the stone began to crumble. The mechanism had been the only thing holding the ancient structure together. He stood at the edge of the forest and watched the widow's peak collapse into a pile of jagged rock and twisted iron. The machine was dead, but the scent of grease and blood stayed on his skin for weeks. He told me later that the hardest part of that mission wasn't the pain. It was the silence of the maiden. She didn't hate him, she didn't love him, she just was. And in a world filled with demons and gods, the cold indifference of iron was the most terrifying thing he'd ever encountered. He rolled a fresh cigar, his fingers stained black with oil, and turned his back on the ruins. The forest was quiet again, but Samuel knew the echoes of the maiden would ring in his ears until the day he died. The tower fell, but the hunger for pain remained. Samuel rode away, a man of flesh and blood fighting a world that was turning to stone and iron. But the shadows were shifting again. The sea was calling. And in the depths of the ocean, something was waiting that didn't need breath or fire. This is Pale River Cinema. The penance of Father Samuel continues.